Undaudu, un, to understand, to unravel the mysteries of the universe, the challenges in your life, the Tao. To find that center, to move forward, that understanding, that self-actualization, that's the Tao. It also stands for decentralized autonomous organizations. These are entities that will replace all current entities because of the blockchain. The do, undao do, distributive unconsciousness. That is the blockchain. That is enlightenment. Just as the blockchain exists as a network of computers on a distributed ledger, you can think of the universe as basically a massive data exchange that instantaneously, in a way, we are creating the reality of existence in the technology that we're bringing about. It's a metaphor. Put another way is, do is instantaneous, which is quantum data, right? Exchange of information that permeates everything from the point of the Big Bang. There you have it. Now we have proof of this information exchange through things called supersymmetry, quantum teleportation, and other things, right? In the future, our computers will work as this data exists. And in the very distant future, if we make it that far, we will be able to tap into this information. And it is this information, the sense of this information that brings about spirituality. The attempt to unravel this information brings about religion. And the purity, in the pure sense of religion, if you strip away all the dogma, and dogma simply is ignorant, arrogant imposition of will, human will, on this information. So in the do, undao do, a doist is one who says, okay, I believe in this distribution of data, right? This instantaneous massive distribution of data, okay? Do. This distributive unconsciousness. It's not consciousness because we are the consciousness of the universe awakening to try to understand itself. This is part of the auspicious times. After over, let's say, 30,000 years of spirituality, probably longer, the issuance of, let's say, religions came about 30,000 years ago, too, right? With the idol, the fat woman. You've seen that, the old icon. Where we first attributed powers to the elements, and we defined objects like the sun and the moon as gods. We've evolved. We've these questions to a point now where we actually are delving into quantum mechanics, and we now have an understanding. And with this understanding, we can smile in the back and go, ha, it's all connected. It's all connected. So, you have uns in your life too. Uns in your life are those that just basically don't understand you, are constantly undermining you and unraveling you, but you love them. It could be a parent. It could be a loved one. It could be a wife. But mark my words, sometimes these uns are dows. In my case, My wife that I was projecting unness onto her turned out to be my Tao. Taos are the ones that basically are those individuals that define who you are as a person. The Taos, your Taos. A parent also can be a Tao. You may not recognize it as a Tao or them as a Tao, but they may be a Tao. A teacher, a professor, a book. For me, some of my Taos are Gandhi and Socrates, Plato, Shakespeare. These are, James Campbell from the Story of Myth, Joseph Campbell. Alan Watts, an amazing American philosopher, probably the greatest, and many others. One Tao do, 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 one Tao do. Our voice, our connection is permeates everything. So whether you want to meditate with your own mantra, you want to meditate with Undao Do, one Tao 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 do. Try to allow the voice to come from your center. The title of this talk is We Live in the Most Auspicious of Times. It means amazing times, right? Auspicious. And yet we risk everything. Greed didn't exist when we were nomadic. Greed. If it did exist, that individual probably would have been kicked out or ultimately punished in some way. Greedy people are selfish people. And in a nomadic tribal time, you had to rely on everyone. The women's and the kids picking berries, right? And other edibles, as the men go off for months at a time and hunt for the really dangerous food and return with this food for the winter time. In our nomadic time, when we traveled from point to point, because we didn't have cities, we didn't have, we may stay in a cave for a while, but then eventually the food would dwindle or whatever, we'd have to move. This was, let's say, 300,000 years ago to just 10,000 years ago. So we spent most of our time, 290,000 years. Now, I put the figure of 300,000 years because most people say we were only 200,000 years old, but I think we're 300,000. Because I think 100 years of our existence, because we existed basically on the shores, we were so afraid to go inland that we stayed and hugged the shores, and all of that now is underwater. And if you know my theory, it's based on Elaine's theory of the aquatic ape. I call it the Easter Island ape, right? She calls it aquatic. The Easter Island aquatic ape, right? Off the coast of Somalia, there's an island. And some years ago, there's a documentary called The Journey of Man, and they found the oldest DNA there. And of all humanity, the oldest is right there. And if you look at the satellite pictures, you can see that there would have been a whole peninsula, and there would have been a whole area there. And I believe that's where we evolved. And there were many dotted islands out there. And the most furthest one, biggest one, Atlantis. My my take on Atlantis. 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 Right? Try to make it kind of like an old guttural Atlantis. Atlantis. And there was a family of meerkats that ended up on this peninsula, just as they ended up on Madagascar. But unlike Madagascar, it was big enough to kind of provide them, kind of a stability and evolution. Because of the size of this island, the kind of the Easter Island, this is the Easter Island part, the little critters basically grew to a point where if you were kicked out of the family, there was no place for you to go. All of the fig trees were taken, right? The territories were established. Where do you do? Well, there was only one place for you to go, and that was to scavenge on the beach. You were known as the Beach Boys. Oh, look, there's the Beach Boys living on the beach. Oh, yeah, you really want to be with them. And they would be, they would be shunned by all the main tribes on the island. There were 3 tribes on the island, right? 3 big tribes on the island that fought for dominance, and they would take this little territory here, and they would struggle, the 3 tribes, right? And the Beach Boys. Maybe the 3rd tribe was the Beach Boys, and there was 2 major tribes. I like that idea better. So there's 2 major tribes, and then there was the 3rd tribe, which was the Beach Boys that ran around the beach. Right, their tribe was a beach. Well, the Beach Boys are the ones that evolved into man ourselves. Why? Because they learned to basically eat shellfish and other things, which were just disgusting. If you imagine, the non seafood eating individuals. Have you ever known anyone who doesn't like sushi? The idea of sushi disgusts them. The idea of eating this stuff on the beach would have disgusted the other meerkats, the meerkat-like ancestors of ours, which were the common ancestor between the apes and the monkeys. That's what I'm talking about, that ancestor right there. And we evolved into swimming, we evolved into losing our hair, we evolved into spending 80% of our time in the water. We could avoid being attacked because the other ones wouldn't attack us in the water. We could swim better than them. If we got them in the water, we would drown them, we would dominate. And the 3rd tribe became very powerful as we spread along the beach. Excuse me. And eventually, we took over the 2 tribes, 2 other tribes in the middle. And we became one family, one tribe, the Beach Boys, the Beach Girls. Actually, they would have been girls because they would have been dominated, as meerkats are, by a female, mating, sex. That's where the bonobos came out of versus the apes. Auspicious of times. Auspicious of times because we have technology, we are basically shaping the planet in such a way that's amazing, and yet we risk everything. We risk everything because, unbeknownst to you who listens to this, our economic business model was accidentally built with the idea that we live on this infinite planet, that we have infinite growth on a finite resource planet. There's an important tea ceremony. If I grab my wife's coffee mug, this tea ceremony, right, where they have the tea, and they Japanese tea ceremony, right? I want you to think of the tea ceremony in a different way. I want you to think of it as, this is all the resources in our planet. And the turning of the mug, right, in a way is a representation of acknowledging that our ocean connects us all, and it's all we have. And the fish that within this ocean are everything, right? The trees, the land, right? The species are all we have. And when they're gone, right? That they exist on this planet as we do. The air we breathe, the air we are heating up, the air we are affecting is the only air we have. And we all need it. And as it gets too hot, it's going to destroy the coral, because the coral ultimately needs a very specific temperature. And 70% of all, or 30, something like 70% of all life exists in the ocean in coral, right? All the species. As we create, we consume the forest and everything else for our own greed, then we're eliminating 70% of all species within the next 50 years. And ultimately, in our actions ourselves, we risk everything. If we do not change, we risk everything. And now the thing is that we can change, and that's the good news. We live in an auspicious time. Because of the open innovation framework that you call the blockchain, the open innovation framework is a system of launching innovation built on a distributed ledger. That's OIF. Okay, the idea of the ICO is OIF. Has nothing to do with the blockchain. It's just built on the blockchain in the front of a tokenization and other things. If we do not usher in what I call capitalism 2.0 or social capitalism 2.0 is social capitalism, built not on this underlining insane idea of infinite growth on a finite resource planet, but on a valuation system that measures intangibles, which we can do now, that measures the benefit of what it is, this DAO, right? This distributed autonomous organization, I call it DANO, decentralized autonomous nonprofit organization. It's a DAO, right? Is impacting our planet, its living systems, and in sharing its wealth with others and sharing, okay? Because we have to realize we live on just one planet, which has just really one ocean, that has just one air. We can't be tribal. Tribal doesn't work anymore. The Trumps in the world, this tribalism that we're seeing right now, is a pushback because people resist change. And the change is here. The change is through the blockchain. Because the blockchain, OIF, plus the DAO, OIF plus DAO equals capitalism 2.0 or social capitalism. Okay? The blockchain plus Danos equals social capitalism. What is social capitalism? Why is social capitalism important? Well, social capitalism is what's going to bring about the Venus Project. Social capitalism is going to bring about what's known as universal basic income. Right? I think it's that, or I'm dyslexic, so I'll never know. Universal basic income, where everyone gets a base income to live. Social capitalism is going to end greed because in social capitalism, everyone is treated equally. Everyone gets one vote. There are no special interest groups because everything's a Dano, and Danos are basically global co-ops of consumer base and creator base. So those that consume and create a product, okay, whether it's this, my wife's drink here, right, will be made by um, employee plus customer owned individuals. So if you consume it, you're no different than you have a vote. I'm drinking this. I am an owner of this Dano, right? This Dano agrees that as based on the community, and individuals will become delegates in this community in the sense that you will be able to assign your vote to me and say, hey, I like what Michael says, I trust him, I give him my vote. Imagine a system of our democratic system doesn't work. I don't want to vote, but you know what? I have friends I would give my vote to. I trust my friend Robert. Robert, I'm giving you my vote. Now Robert has 2 votes. Oh, who did you give your vote to, Michael? I gave it to Robert. I trust him. Oh, I trust you then. If you trust Robert, I trust him. Oh, guess what? He just got 3 votes. These delegates, these individuals that we trust, not politicians, that we trust will do. And the thing is, these delegates are all part of a Dano. The Dano is providing them a basic, they don't have to get paid to be. They're basically, as a delegate, is just a kind of a side thing. Maybe they do get a little bit of a bump on their fee. Who knows? That's up to the Dano to decide that. Every Dano will operate differently. A Dano, a decentralized autonomous nonprofit organization, it's decentralized, right? And it's actually distributed. And there's 2 reasons why it's distributed, or it's really a DDA Dano. Decentralized means they happen anywhere, right? Distributed means they're actually interconnected, right, everywhere. What happens, there is no central location of a Dano as there is a central location of Microsoft that then in their foundation gives only to that location. It doesn't make sense. The Microsoft who's in Oregon makes all of this money, and yet its foundation says that we're only going to support this area. What's up with that? That's just stupid, right? In the future, you will have self-organizing. So these delegates become kind of board members and everything else on it. There are no managers of boards as we think of, like appointed or everything else. A Dano is employee, customer owned cooperative, right? A Dano really is a cooperative. That happens everywhere. And its 3 mandates is 1, help the planet, which we talk about this problem, help the living systems. We're all equal here as individuals. And finally, in sharing. Hope you like this talk. So it's long. Undoubtedly. Look at a filter here. I'm playing around with filters. I like that one. Maybe it'll drive you crazy to a dance party one. I like that one. Documentary. Undoubtedly. It's negative. I like that. Take care.